8-7, writing linear equations. If you'll remember in 8-6, you took an equation of a line, you put it into slope-intercept form, and then you got the slope and y-intercept, and then you put it on a graph. In this lesson, you're actually going to work backwards from several points. You're going to start with the slope and the y-intercept and end up with an equation, or you're going to start with the graph of a line and end up with an equation of a line in slope-intercept form. So getting right to it, we have two examples to work on here. We have a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of 6. You'll remember that the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. In our first example with a slope of 2, m is 2, and the y-intercept is 6, so b equals 6. We're simply going to take that information and substitute it in to the slope-intercept form. So we will have y equals 2x plus 6. That is the slope-intercept form of the equation that has a line with a slope 2 and a y-intercept of 6. In our other example, we have a slope of 0, m equals 0, and a y-intercept of 5. So substituting that information in, y equals 0 times x plus 5. We're going to simplify that because we actually can substitute, we can simplify out the 0x. So y equals 5. So that is the equation of the line with a slope of 0 and a y-intercept of 5, which should be quite clear. Y equals 5. If you go up to y equals 5, the y-intercept of 5, you're going to have a horizontal line that is at 5 with no slope. Should make sense. Review from a couple of lessons ago. Now, moving on, making things a little bit more advanced, we are going to write an equation from a graph. So here, we actually have a picture, a graph of a line. We have to three-step process here. We have to find the slope, we have to find the y-intercept, and then we have to write the equation. So the slope is going to be going from one point to the other, where the two red dots are. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 dots, and over 2. So the slope of this line is 4 over 2. The y-intercept is where this line crosses the y-axis, which is at -2. Very good. So now we have the slope and the y-intercept. So we will go right to step 3 and write the equation by substituting them in to the slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. And when we substitute those in, y equals 4 over 2x minus 2. And there is the slope-intercept form of that line, which had no information on it whatsoever to begin with, but we were able to get those two pieces of information from the picture. You're welcome to simplify the 4 over 2 down to 2 over 1 or even 2x if you want. That's fine. It's up to you. I will accept any version of that you like to give. So you're all set with that. Now, finally, our last example is writing the slope-intercept equation from a pair of points. We want to wind up with y equals mx plus b. And all we're given are these 2 points, -2, -1, and 1, 2. We're going to go through the same 3 steps we went through on the last board, but we're not going to use a graph. You're not allowed to make a picture. You're not allowed to get the information from the picture. You have to get it mathematically, because there are times when that's going to be necessary. So, who remembers the equation of the slope from several lessons ago? Anyone? Yes. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So 1, find the slope. So we will substitute in to find the slope. So y2 in this case will make it this number here. So we're going to have 2 minus -1 over 1 minus -2. And when we simplify that, 2 minus -1 is 3. 1 minus -2 is 3. So the slope is actually going to be 1. I will simplify in this case. So once we found the slope, we have to find the y-intercept, find b. Because you'll recognize that when we went to the last slide, we had to find the slope of step 1, find the y-intercept is step 2. On this case, it was easy. You could look at the graph and find out where it crosses the y-axis. This one, that's not as easy. We can't just look at a graph. So what we're going to do is we're going to use one of the points and the slope-intercept form and the slope to get one of those points. So we're going to take y equals mx plus b. We're going to substitute in the slope, 1x plus b. And now we're actually going to take one of our 2 points, our x-coordinate and our y-coordinate, and we're going to substitute them in for an x and a y. Because we know that -2, -1 is a point on that line, and we know that 1, 2 is a point on that line. So we're actually going to take the 1, 2 and substitute it in. So in that case, y is 2. 1 times x is 1 plus b. So 2 equals 1 plus b. We're going to subtract 1 from both sides, simplifying. And we find that the y-intercept is 1. So what we did here is we borrowed from 3 different places to find the y-intercept. We borrowed the slope-intercept form of the equation. We borrowed the slope that we found from the previous equation. And we borrowed one of the points that we know is on the line from the original problem. And these 3 pieces of information were useful. They helped us find the y-intercept. Now that we have the slope and the y-intercept, we can put it into slope-intercept form. So we go back to our y equals mx plus b form, and we substitute in the slope and the y-intercept. Y equals 1x, so we'll just call it x, and the y-intercept is 1 plus 1. So the equation of the line that passes through these 2 points, -2, -1, and 1, 2, the equation of that line is y equals x plus 1. This is the most advanced type of work you're going to see with taking and writing lines in slope-intercept form. So again, this lesson, like the last lesson, started off relatively easy. You're given the slope and the y-intercept. You have to write the equation from those 2 pieces of information. You'll be given a picture. You'll have to find the slope and the y-intercept from the picture and then write the equation. And then finally, the most mathematically oriented way of finding the slope and the y-intercept and the slope-intercept form, you'll be given 2 points where you have to find the slope, the y-intercept, and then finally 3, writing the slope-intercept form. Your homework is on page 407, 408, 12 to 30, the evens.